He is serpent-shaped, and he's the first king of Athens, but he's also credited as being the founder of Attica, of the whole region. He is a part of that story, the myth of the contest between Athena and Poseidon over becoming the patron god or goddess of Attica and of Athens as well. He has 3 daughters that will be important in various parts here because they will serve as priestesses to Athena in her temple on the Acropolis. The 3 daughters were Augleros, which means bright, Herse, which means dew, and Pandrosos, which means all dew. So these 3 are a type of fertility figures, fertility goddesses. Herse and Hermes have a love affair, and Hermes actually has Athena's blessing to court her priestess, Herse. But Augleros is jealous, and in some versions of the story, Athena actually infects Augleros with jealousy. And when Hermes shows up to see Herse, Augleros forbids him from entering the temple. And so he gets angry. He turns her into a stone that sits by the door, all because she broke the bargain that allows him to visit with Herse. Now, Herse and Hermes will have a son named Cephalus. All right, Cephalus will marry a woman named Procris, which we'll see in a little bit, but you might remember her vaguely from Artemis. Procris is a favorite of Artemis, and as a favorite, Procris has received some very precious gifts from the goddess herself. The 2 gifts she's received was the undefeatable hound and the javelin. The undefeatable hound we saw with the mythic foxes, the foxes that were fated to never be caught. And the undefeatable hound is set loose against them, and in order to stop this never-ending hunt, Zeus turns them all into stone. Now, the javelin has a rather sad story because Procris gives the javelin to her husband, and remember, it's fated to never fail or to never miss its mark. So Cephalus loves to go hunting with the javelin, and after hunting, he likes to, strip down naked and talk to the breeze as it blows over him, cooling him down. Well, Procris goes out and spies on her husband one day, and when she hears him talking, she thinks that he's having an affair and accidentally makes a noise. Cephalus is startled. He throws the javelin at what he thinks is a wild animal and accidentally kills her because, again, it never misses its mark. That brings us to the second king of Athens in the Attic region, which is Erichthonius, which means the good earth. He is also autochthonian and serpent-shaped, and his adopted mother is Athena. Now, we saw this particular story before as well. Athena either changes her mind about sleeping with Hephaestus, or Hephaestus tries to rape Athena and she gets away from him. But in either case, Hephaestus spills some of his seed on Athena's thigh, and in disgust, she wipes it off and throws it to the ground. Of course, anytime seed hits the earth or Gaia, something's going to pop out. So this is where Erichthonius is born. Gaia is completely disgusted about the birth of this, this accidental birth of this baby, so she refuses to take responsibility for the child. So Athena steps in, feeling responsible, and basically adopts him and raises him as his foster mother. In order to protect Erichthonius as a baby, she carries him inside a special box with a lid or a basket with a lid, and she takes him to her sanctuary on the Acropolis, on her temple on the Acropolis. And here she tells the priestess sisters, Augleros, Herse, and Pandrosos, to watch over this basket but not to open it, and to not, on any account, look inside. Athena doesn't actually tell them what's inside of it, so of course you know what their curiosity is going to lead them to do. They are going to open the box, of course. When they open the box, they're so shocked by what they see because they see a baby curled up with a snake in his crib. Or since he's part snake, maybe they just saw the baby part with the snake part and didn't really know what they were seeing. Either way, they're so shocked by what they see that they throw themselves off of the Acropolis to their death on the rocks below. But in another version, a crow sees them opening the box and tells Athena what they have done. And it's Athena who drives them off of the Acropolis in her fury because they disobeyed her orders. Okay, the third king of Athens is Pandion. And Pandion has two daughters named Philomela and Procne. Procne marries a man named Tereus, who is the king of Thrace. And you can go back and look at that map again that's on the very first slide to see where Thrace is. But she goes to live with him in Thrace, and after 5 years of marriage, Procne really wants to see her sister. So Tereus agrees to go to Athens and bring Philomela to Thrace for a visit with her sister. However, Tereus finds Philomela so beautiful on the way back to Thrace that he rapes her, and in order to keep that a secret, he hides her away in a cave and cuts out her tongue so she can't tell anyone what's happened. When he gets back to Thrace, he tells Procne that her sister is dead. Unable to speak, Philomela weaves a tapestry depicting the story of what happened to her and arranges for an old woman to take it to Procne. When Procne sees the weaving, she immediately recognizes her sister's work and goes to find her sister. She asks the old woman to lead her to Philomela. After Procne rescues her sister, together they plan revenge on Tereus. And her revenge, she kills their son, Idaeus, and serves him to Tereus for supper. And that's what you see in this lovely picture here on this slide. Anyway, after the end of the meal, Philomela comes out and throws the boy's head on the table. Realizing what happens, Tereus chases the women and tries to kill them, but before he can catch them, the gods transform them all into birds. Tereus becomes a hawk, Procne becomes a nightingale, and Philomela a swallow. Not that that's important, but in the Roman version of the story, Philomela becomes a nightingale and Procne becomes a swallow. Okay, and that leads us to the fourth king of Athens, Erechthus. Right? And Erechthus, you should remember from Heracles, all right, because that is who Heracles does his labors for. And remember, this was Heracles' birthright to become the king of Athens. But Erechthus gets it because of Hera's jealousy, anger, and manipulations. The daughters of Erechthus, one of them is sacrificed in order to have victory over Eumolpus. Procris marries Cephalus, so we just heard that story and what happens to her above. Oreithyia marries Boreas, the north wind. And Oreithyia becomes the mother of Zetes and Calais, who is the two Argonauts with wings. So there's a connection there too. Creusa is his final daughter, and Apollo falls in love with Creusa. But a mortal named... Oh, I'm sorry. Skip that. I started to tell a different story. Sorry. Anyway, Creusa is loved by Apollo, and they have a son named Ion. However, Creusa gives up the baby. She sets him out to die of exposure, but Hermes saves the boy and takes him to Delphi to be raised in the temple of Apollo, and he becomes a temple boy. Creusa and her husband are never able to have children, punishment for what she does to Ion. But when they go to the Oracle of Delphi to, seek wisdom or to try to figure out how they can have a child, the Oracle tells them to greet the first person that they meet as their son. And of course, the first person that they meet is Ion. Actually, it's her husband that goes to the temple. So the husband comes back, and when Creusa sees him return with this boy, she immediately thinks that Ion is her husband's bastard child and tries to kill him. However, they learn the truth just in time, and they're reconciled and become a big, happy family. All right. The last two kings, Cecrops II and Pandion II, we won't really get into too much, except for Aegeus. Okay, Aegeus is the father of Theseus. So we're finally getting to our main hero here. So Aegeus is unable to have children. So he goes to visit an oracle, Pythius, the king of Troezen. Pythius is famous for his wisdom and for his skill of explaining oracles. So Pythius understands the prophecy that is preventing Aegeus from having children, and he introduces Aegeus to his daughter Aethra. So all of these names are right here, okay? Aethra is actually introduced to Aegeus when Aegeus is drunk. And so he sleeps with Aethra, and in some versions, Aethra leaves the bed and goes and wades to an island and then sleeps with Poseidon. And Aethra becomes pregnant. Maybe it's Aegeus' son. Maybe it's Poseidon's son. This little technique is going to be complicated throughout the story. Anyway, when Aethra becomes pregnant, Aegeus decides to return to Athens, and before leaving, he buries his sandals, a shield, and a sword under a huge rock, and tells Aethra that when their son grew up, he should move the rock and bring the weapons to his father, who will acknowledge him and recognize him because of these items. Father of the year for raising his children, right? Anyway, that's the motif of identification, right? And the motif of the, miraculous birth, because is he Aegeus' son or is he Poseidon's? That's always up for debate. By the time Aegeus returns to Athens, Medea is there, and he winds up marrying Medea, the same Medea that was married to Jason, and you know how all that went, okay? This is after Medea has fled Corinth and the wrath of Jason over, killing his new bride and killing their children. So Aegeus and Medea marry, and they have one son named Metis, and we've talked about that before. So Theseus is born, and now we get to Theseus in particular. All right, he is the great national hero of Athens. He is a good bit of Athenian propaganda. He's very important to Athens. He becomes a tourist attraction, of course. And he's also associated with Heracles, outright in some stories, but also in some of his adventures, his deeds are very much modeled after Heracles, as you'll see. Theseus tends to be an absorption of some lesser heroes of the region, so they kind of deleted them to make one big hero. So he takes on their stories. And it's during the 6th and 5th centuries BC in Athens that Theseus's myth really takes off. Okay. So just like always, we can't just have him go to Athens without any kind of adventure. On the way, he has to dispose of 6 bandits that are troublesome to all travelers along the road from Troezen to Athens. All right. And he does this, although Heracles is around. Heracles at this point is under the servitude to Queen Omphale, the 2nd round of servitude he has to do for. So he's unavailable to take care of the bandits. So Theseus is going to do it for him. Okay? So there are 6 of them. And I'll just tell you really quickly who they are, kind of nicknames that we'll give them because I don't have any actual names, and what they do. And what you want to remember is that Theseus is going to defeat these bandits with their own methods of killing travelers along the road. So they kind of get their just desserts. Okay, so guy number 1, we'll call him Guy with a Club. All right, so he has a large club and he kills people with the club. Okay, so Theseus kills him with his own club, with the guy's club, if that's not clear. Okay, number 2, bandit number 2, we're going to call him the Pine Tree Bender. Okay, he is so big and strong that he bends pine trees over, and when someone comes along the road, he kills them by releasing the pine tree and they thwack the person on the road. Okay, so Theseus kills him with one of his own pine trees. Okay, the 3rd bandit, we'll call him the Big Pig guy. He has this enormous pig. If you know, pigs are omnivores. They'll eat anything. So this guy attacks travelers and feeds them to his pig. Okay, that's number 3. Bandit number 4 pretends to be helpful. He offers to wash travelers' feet. Now remember, at this time, people are traveling. They have sandals. The dirt road, it gets pretty, pretty tough to travel because most people walk. Very few people actually had horses. So it's a luxury to have your feet washed. Okay, so when this guy starts to wash their feet, he ends up kicking them over a cliff to be eaten by a giant turtle. That's right, I said giant turtle. Okay, big snapping turtle or something like that. Anyway, so then he steals whatever they have off of their, bones. Okay, bandit number 5, let's call him the Wrestler. He wrestles people to death and steals from them. So, of course, Theseus wrestles him to death. Okay. Oh, and the washing the feet guy, Theseus kicks him over the cliff to be eaten by his own giant turtle. Okay, so 5 is the Wrestler. Then the last one, bandit number 6, we're going to call him the Stretcher. The Stretcher actually owns an inn, and people will stop to spend the night there. And basically, he kills people by making them fit the bed. So he either stretches them out so that they fit the whole length of the bed and basically pulls them apart, or he cuts off their legs, so again, they fit the bed. So of course, Theseus does the same thing to him, stretches him, cuts him apart. All right. So he successfully defeats the 6 bandits en route to Athens and finally arrives in Athens. Of course, when he arrives, Medea immediately recognizes him as Aegeus' legitimate heir and a threat to her own son. So she tries to poison Theseus. That's what we see in this mosaic here. She tries to poison Theseus, but Aegeus recognizes him in time and saves him. Of course, this doesn't do very much for Medea's relationship with Aegeus, and so this is when she leaves with their son Metis to continue on her adventures. All right. Once he arrives in Athens, he takes care of the Cretan bull that Heracles brought back in one of his labors. And remember, he brings it back, he shows it to Eurystheus, and then, lets it go. So this bull, fire-breathing bull, if you remember, has been causing some problems in the area, so Theseus captures him and sacrifices it back to Apollo. Okay. So we're going to take a little side trip here. We're going to leave Athens a little bit because we have to find out what's been happening on the island of Crete to figure out how Theseus is going to end up on Crete against the Minotaur. Okay. So, first of all, Minos is mostly recognized as the king of Crete. He is a son of Zeus. Zeus fell in love with a young woman named Europa. Zeus changes himself into a white bull and carries her off to Crete. I know you're so surprised. All right, anyway. So Europa, you'll see, actually appears in the next saga on Thebes as well. She's mentioned, all right, because her family will try to find her. Anyway, Zeus and Europa have two sons, Minos and Rhadamanthus. Okay? But Minos is the king of Crete. Rhadamanthus is not the heir. Okay? So Minos marries a woman named Pasiphae. And they have 3 children. They have Ariadne, Phaedra, and a son, Androgeos. Okay? Now, this Cretan bull that Theseus had to get rid of, remember, it was first on Crete, and it was a present to King Minos from Poseidon. So Minos likes the bull too much to sacrifice it, so he keeps it, and this makes Poseidon angry. So Poseidon contrives for Pasiphae, the queen, to have an unnatural lust for the bull. She just has to have sex with this bull. So how's she going to do it? She is going to go to Daedalus for help. Daedalus is a cunning artisan and craftsman. He has lots of adventures that, or not adventures, inventions that he's well known for. And Daedalus is in a bit of trouble, so he's a bit beholden to the queen because he is on Crete because he's killed his own nephew. His nephew invents a saw of some kind, and Daedalus is jealous because he's the inventor of the family, apparently, and he throws him off of a rock and kills him. Athena supposedly rescues this nephew before death by turning him into a bird or a pigeon. Anyway, Daedalus is exiled for his crime, and so he winds up on the island of Crete in exile. So Pasiphae goes to Daedalus to help her with this bull love problem that she has. And so Daedalus makes her a bronze cow, a hollow bronze cow, in which she can lie and position herself so she can have sex with the bull. Yes, that's what happens. That's the hollow cow right here in this picture. So the result of her mating with the Cretan bull is the Minotaur, the creature that is half man and half bull. I know you're still thinking about the hollow cow. I know, it's pretty disturbing. I have to give you that. Okay, but anyway, the Minotaur. When the Minotaur is born, Minos commissions Daedalus to create the labyrinth for the Minotaur to live in. Now, the labyrinth is usually thought to be like a large maze, but it could actually have been a very large palace with many passages that people could get lost in. So the Minotaur was not necessarily banished to some creepy maze. He could have actually been given a very large house or palace to live in. which was maze-like because of all the passages. Okay. Now, Daedalus is in trouble with Minos for this whole bull business, and he would really like to leave Crete, but Minos won't let him. So it's at this point that Daedalus makes his famous wing invention down here, and he and his son Icarus are going to fly off the island of Crete using these wings. However, the wings are fastened together with wax, and so Daedalus tells Icarus to stay away from the sun because the heat from the sun will melt the wax and melt the wings. So of course, what does Icarus do but fly too close to the sun, his wings melt, and he falls to his death in the sea. And even to this day, that particular region of the Mediterranean is known as the Icarian Sea. Okay? Daedalus, on the other hand, does not melt his wings, and he is able to fly to Italy, and you can learn more about him in the Roman book, the Aeneid. Okay? He reaches Sicily first, but Minos is actually chasing after him because, again, he did not give him permission to leave Crete. So he can't stay in Sicily. He does finally wind up in Italy when he finally gets away from Minos. Okay. This is where Athens and Crete are going to cross paths. Okay? Minos' son Androgeos is a very good athlete. And so he goes to participate in the Pan-Athenian Games in Athens. He was so good that he won all of the contests, and so the Athenians get pissed about that and they kill him. So Minos seeks revenge for the death of his son, and he declares war on Athens. Now, in the course of this war, this one little story occurs because Athens' allies also become involved in the war, and one of Athens' allies is the country of Megara here. Okay, now Megara gets involved in the fray, but the king of Megara, whose name is Nisus, has a daughter named Scylla. Not the monster Scylla, this is a different one, okay? Scylla takes one look at King Minos on the battlefield and falls in love with him. So she decides she's going to help Minos, and in order to win Minos' heart, she's going to grant him victory by removing this one purple lock of hair that is on her father's head. Now, this single purple lock of hair grants Nisus invincibility. So as long as he has it, he's invincible. It's kind of like the story of Samson in the Bible. So when she cuts off his lock of hair, Minos is able to kill the king. Now, this does not work out so well for Scylla because Minos is actually disgusted by her lack of devotion to her father, and he leaves Megara immediately and leaves Scylla behind. She doesn't give up easily, though, so she starts swimming after Minos' boat, and she nearly catches up with the ship. I should call it a ship, not a boat. But her father, who was transformed into a sea eagle when he dies, swoops in and drowns Scylla. Or perhaps Scylla was transformed into another type of seabird, which is relentlessly pursued by a sea eagle. Either way, it's not a happy ending for Scylla. At the end of the war, Athens brokers a treaty with King Minos. They're the losers, so they're the ones that have to pay Minos for killing his son and for losing the war. So the payment that Minos exacts is a tribute of 14 young Athenians, 7 boys and 7 virgin girls. I don't know if it matters if the boys are virgins or not, but specifically virgin girls. And these 14 Athenians are sent to Crete and locked up in the labyrinth with the Minotaur, who kills them and eats them. So that's their unhappy fate. Okay, and this is done every year. 14 Athenians are sacrificed every year. All right, so that's going to bring us to Theseus and the Minotaur, and I'm going to pause this right here and come back with part 2 because I'm not sure how well I can upload a very big file to YouTube. So we'll be back with part 2.